just like to do it. I feel confident, like I'm like the director.
All right, I'm Danny Brown. This is the Myriad show. Today I am joined by Donny Bailey. He is one of our preferred vendors with Mr. Rooter Plumbing. He is who we use and recommend to all of our clients when it comes to doing sewer inspections and plumbing repairs. Appreciate you coming out, Donny.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me.
Good, good. So Donny and I go pretty far back. We've known each other now, I think we figured it out, for 6 years.
Yeah, right about
5
that.
or 6 years. Prior to that, I never did sewer inspections. I didn't know it was actually a thing, and it's one of those that I don't think a lot of agents know that it's a thing.
They don't. 5 years ago, it barely became a thing. So when you started doing it about 5 years ago, it was just now starting to hit. People asking questions and stuff like that. But now it's getting more and more popular. More and more real estate agents are doing it. But there's still a lot that don't know what to do and what to look for and even why to look for it. So it's good that more and more people are starting to understand it and understand why they're doing it, especially for someone buying an older home.
Yeah. So what age of home would you recommend that somebody actually do a sewer inspection?
I would say anything before 1970 for sure. Mid 70s, if you feel that there's like big trees in the yard, stuff like that, if you're worried about roots.
Okay.
Just kind of depends on what pipe and what area you're in, but definitely anything before 1970, I would 100%.
And it doesn't matter the location within the
Nope.
valley?
Nope, anything that's 1970, because you got to realize anywhere you go too much further outskirts, it's going to be pretty new. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be too concerned about it, but definitely the newer homes, just kind of like not really, but 1970, especially here in the valley in Phoenix and the surrounding areas, Arcadia, all that good stuff. You don't really want to just hope that nothing's bad. Those homes
Right.
are old and they start to fail.
Yeah, I mean, stuff always breaks down, and I think that sewer lines are one of those things that are just out of sight, out of mind, and people don't think about them until you literally have stuff bubbling up.
Yeah, literally, that's the unfortunate part, is that it's not like a new race car where someone's like, hey, come look at my new race car, I get to drive around the block. It's really just, hey, you flush my toilet, nothing comes in the shower anymore, or on my floor, something like that. So it's really hard for people to really want to understand and take the time to learn it, because it's something they don't get to show off, they don't get to do anything. It's not like a big thing they get to have. It's just, it's a necessity, and that's what they have to go.
And it's one of those things that can save you, I mean, tons of money.
Tons of money, pretty much on average, especially here in the Metro City area. Like, it averages about $7,000 and up to start replacing sewers and stuff like that.
Okay. So over the course of the 5 or 6 years that we've known each other, and we've been doing sewer inspections, what would you estimate that we've saved our clients in money?
Probably anywhere between $400,000 and $500,000.
Really, that much?
Give or take. Just depends on the area and where it's at. But you got to realize, if you're cameraing all older stuff, 90% of the time you're going to find something older and older stuff. Like, it just, whether it's cracks, buildup, junk, collapse, roots, anything along those lines, you're going to.
Okay. So tell me about then what you look for, and why kind of 1970s is the cutoff. What sort of materials were they using then that have become, why did they become issues?
Well, they kind of started really using plastic in the 70s, so it's a little bit more durable, it's a little bit more flex. There's glue fittings instead of just joints and lead and oakum, or rubber gauntlets and stuff like that get used on it. So that's a big reason why. Like, the older stuff, it's either Orangeburg pipe or terracotta clay pipe, or cast iron's another big one that everybody thinks that's such a great thing because it is iron. The problem with iron is that it does rust and collapse and crack. So in the 70s, they started using plastic, started realizing all that stuff. So new builds and everything, even today, are still built in plastic.
And that's what that black piping is, right?
Yep, the big black, harder pipe. Now, there is a black Orangeburg pipe. The problem with the black Orangeburg pipe, it is basically like cardboard and paper.
Yeah, tell me more about Orangeburg. I hear that that's a really awful piping.
So Orangeburg was actually made in Orangeburg, New York. That's where it gets the name Orangeburg from. The problem with it is that they built it when the war was going on, so they couldn't use iron, and plastic really wasn't the thing yet, so they made a big surplus of this pipe. Mainly just to be able to put it in the ground without having somebody sit there and constantly go, well, we're out of irons, we need the metal for the war. So Orangeburg...
You're talking World War II?
Yep.
Okay.
So basically when Orangeburg was invented, it was like this great alternative pipe that they could put in the ground and cost effective and everything else. The problem is that it is made out of a cardboard based material, so as it's water and everything starts to go through it over the years, it's like cardboard paper, and you start to peel and it starts to peel up. You get a lot of porpoising and knots in the pipe. It comes real brittle to where roots really want to attract and go to it because it does start to leak very easily.
What's porpoising?
Porpoising is basically like if you look at, I don't know the true definition of it, I learned it not too long ago, but basically it looks like if there's like a bunch of knots in the pipe and you're kind of doing this.
Okay.
So at Orangeburg it does it very much because it starts to peel apart. So you get knots, like if you were to take construction paper and get it wet and you kind of see how it's starting to peel apart. Same type of concept, so you start getting this all the way through the pipe. So, and at that point when you start to get the fittings and you start to get those knots at the fittings, that's what really starts to crack the pipe and start leakage, make those roots want to come to you and see what's going on.
Okay.
So Orangeburg, yeah, everybody talks really bad about it, but it did last 50 years. So
That's true.
we can't overly talk bad about it, but once it fails, it fails. There's
Yeah.
no hiccups. A lot of people seem to think that there's always Band-Aids and everything else, but there's really not. Once you start cutting it and trying to repair it or anything else like that, it just starts to collapse.
Okay. So tell me about the kind of the repair process. So well, first tell me, how do you inspect sewer lines? I mean, they're underground. How does one even know, like, how do you look at them?
So basically, there's many different cameras and reels and stuff like that you can use. I particularly like the brand Rigid. It's basically like a long 200-foot push rod that has a fiber optics camera on the end of it. You can plug that into your monitor. So as you're surfing it down the sewer pipe, you actually get the visual to see exactly what's going on. Certain ones can record and everything else, so if you need to show it to buyers or anything else along those lines, you can give them that. So they're actually called sea snakes because it's sneaky and it looks like a snake. But that's the best way to kind of go about it. There are different brands and different styles, but I like the ones that actually work and the original ones out there.
So explain to me, because I've gone on many of these inspections with you, and sometimes I see you drag this stuff on the roof. Why would you need to take a camera up on the roof of a house when the sewer lines are underground? I don't quite understand.
Well, many years ago, it wasn't code or anything else to have cleanouts put into the ground, which cleanouts are basically just another version of a place to get access from. There's safety valves, they're cleanout valves, whatever the case, however you want to word them.
Are those the black things that are kind of... that are
Probably have a
somebody's
square
yard?
cap or a slit in the cap.
Okay.
Basically what those are is two different things. Is one, if someone does have a backup, so instead of it backing up inside their house and flooding their house out, you're supposed to be able to come out, release that cap so it flows outside instead of inside. So that's the biggest part of it, is because it's an access point to allow it to flow out instead of in. The second part is that because it's an access for us to be able to use our cable equipment to cable that drain to hopefully get that water to drop. Once that water drops, then we can come back and visually inspect it with the camera and everything else like that. So that's the biggest reason. So back in before like 1972, I believe, there wasn't code to have cleanouts.
Okay.
They just built the house. They have testes that are buried under there, and you can kind of get to those by digging 4 feet deep and going to get them. But at that point, you're installing new ones anyway. So it wasn't code, so they didn't have them. So there's these pipes on top of roofs that look like circular vents.
Mm-hmm.
Basically what they are is a vent. It basically allows air in the water, so when you flush a toilet and run a sink, it allows that water to keep flowing freely down the thing, down the pipe. It's not much different if you were to take a straw into soda and you put your finger over and pull it up and you hold all that water or soda or whatever's in it, and as soon as you release it, it drains out.
Oh,
it's
wow.
the same type of concept.
Okay.
So it's allowing that water to keep going wherever it needs to go. Those are direct access ports we can get to from there as well. There is a big misconception on, a lot of people like to use the word grandfathered in. Unfortunately, OSHA has stepped in and said with sewers, there's no grandfathered in. So it is code to have cleanouts, and mainly because they don't want plumbers on roofs.
Mm-hmm.
We don't follow the proper steps, we don't tie each other off, we don't have backup people there, we don't do what we're supposed to do.
Sure.
So they don't want us up there. So it is a code to have them now. So even if your home is 1950 and I've never had cleanouts before, well, technically you're supposed to have them. So it is a code to have them for those things. Mainly, if anything, like people that don't understand it, is like, mainly anything, I don't want poo-poo water on the floor. I prefer that to be outside.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I go with it, and that's where, if I'm being a homeowner, is why I would want those there. Other than that, that's pretty much what they're used for, is either A, to cable, inspect, and or flow the water out instead of inside.
So say you do your inspection and you find roots or cracking or porpoising, what's next? How do you fix these issues without having to dig everything up? It just sounds like it would be really hard to fix those things.
They very can be, so it just really depends on each step of the way. Like, every application is different. So is it one spot that we're worried about, or are we talking about a whole line? So like one spot, you could dig to that area, cut that bad section of pipe out. And a lot of people get the misconception on, it's like, let's just talk about roots. We'll go back to porpoising, but roots. A lot of people sit there and they think that because there's roots and people have these cable blades and everything else, have these cutters, that they're gonna go in there and cut the roots out. That's yes and no. The reason being is that your pipe's either a 3 or 4 inch pipe. So you got a good sized pipe in there. Your cable's about the size of my thumb, maybe a little bit bigger with the cutter head on it. So let's picture it like a V. Well, the cable's gonna take the same path as water does. So if your roots are on this side and the cable sides come this way, you're still gonna miss those roots as you come through. So then people want to say, well, you can cut them out. Well, that's not necessarily true. You can cut a majority of them out, but they're still there. Then they talk about the next part is jetting. Well, you can jet those roots out, take those roots that are here, the nest or whatever, and shrink them up, so now you got a free flow. Yes, you can. And yes, there's a good chance of that.
What's jetting?
Jetting is basically like a car wash for the sewer.
Okay.
It's a high pressure hose that goes through there that has a bunch of little ports on it, different tips and everything else, depends on what you're trying to do. But it shoots about 4,000 to 6,000 pounds of pressure. So it helps reduce those roots in. Certain pipes you can blow apart. So like Orangeburg, real brittle cast iron, they can blow those pipes apart if you're not careful.
Wow.
The root problem is that everybody seems to fail. So like, oh yeah, we got those roots out. You knuckled those up. Those are free flowing. Your pipe's still broke. They got in there somehow.
Right.
So they're going to keep growing back.
Yeah.
And unfortunately with sewer, you're getting the best compost you can get.
Yeah, roots are attracted to water and fertilizer. Yeah.
They're getting everything they could possibly imagine right there. So they're going to keep coming back. So the only true way to really fix that is basically dig down, cut out that section of pipe and repair it. If you're going back to like, okay, the whole yard line's got Orangeburg and it's doing all the porpoising and falling apart and all that good stuff. There's many different options. Our biggest one that our company likes to do is called trenchless. And everybody kind of forgets that trenchless still means trenching. We still have to dig holes. So instead of like from A to B, say from my coffee mug to your coffee mug, instead of me having to come through either your house or your yard and just tear up all your brand new landscape and everything else, I can dig a hole at one, where it exits the house, and B, where it ties into the city main. And once we get to those, we cut those sections of pipe out. We feed a cable through them. It's called the bursting head on it. Basically looks like an ice cream cone. And on the end of that, you can fuse all of your pipe together. I don't care if it's 20 feet or 200 feet. You can fuse it together at 600 degrees. So like ABS and PVC, everybody sees the glue fittings and stuff like that, and that's how they do it. Well, the pipe that we use is a flexible pipe. It's not circled, it's still rigid stick pipe, but it's got flex to it. And then you fuse it at 600 degrees. That's how you get everything, all the pipe that you need. So as it comes through, it literally splits that old pipe. Doesn't matter if it's cast iron, doesn't matter if it's Orangeburg. And as it splits that pipe, it's dragging that new pipe directly in its place. And then you can go there and you can reconnect. Some people, where they get confused, as they're like, well, you're reducing the diameter of my old pipe because you're putting that new pipe in there. Well, no, because we're eliminating that pipe. So the pipe is gone.
Wow.
So as that new pipe comes through there, and then we do all our connections, backfill, put it back together. So from A to B is all brand new pipe. A, without the dollar amount. B, without all the putback you're going to have to do. And C, a faster, cleaner area.
Yeah. So when you have to do the trenchless and you have to dig on, so do you have to dig inside someone's house?
There are times that we do. So say cast iron failed, starting to collapse, has cracks, whatever the case may be. Same concept as we go to a bathroom, to outside, or to tie-ins or something along those lines. And we can still pipe burst that underneath the slab, which is huge because a lot of people have tile nowadays. It is 110 degrees outside, so we want it as cool as we can get. So someone walking in there and going, yeah, we're going to saw cut 60 feet across your floor here and get rid of it. Oh, hey, by the way, get out your house because you can't breathe or anything else because we're going to dust it out. Becomes a big problem to a lot of people.
Sure.
Number one investment. They want to be home. They want to be where they're at. They're already inconvenienced enough. Now you're going to inconvenience them by kicking them out of the house. So that's why we do pipe bursting, is because we like to be able to let people still live there, keep everything going and still be able to flow with what we
So
need
you
to
can
do.
still live in the house while these repairs are happening?
90% of the time you can.
Okay.
There are some instances, if something happens along those lines, there might be a night that you have to stay in a hotel.
Okay.
But we're not talking days, we're not talking weeks or anything else like that. So just really kind of depends.
So when you have to dig inside someone's house to just gain that access, I guess my main question would be, what happens to the flooring there? Are you having to re-pour concrete? Like, how invasive is that one?
Yeah, so like, let's just say this is a bathroom here, and
Mhm.
there's a collapsed pipe or whatever inside this bathroom. We would still have to pull that floor up, remove the tile, jackhammer the concrete, excavate the dirt to get down to the pipe. Once we do whatever we have to do to fix it, repair it, replace it, we will put the dirt back, the concrete back, and all that good stuff. It is up to the homeowner at that point to go ahead and get either new tile or have a tile guy come out. They have extra tile, repair the tile, whatever the
Okay.
case they're trying to do, they will have to go ahead and put that back.
Okay.
So that's the downfall. There is still some headache, and you're still gonna have some, but 8 tiles is a heck of a lot better than
Yeah,
60
for
feet
sure,
of tile.
for sure. So is there ever a time then when you don't have to dig inside the house to get to the?
The connections, there
Yeah.
are times, there's a thing that we also do, it's called pipelining, which is basically a fiberglass resin epoxy that goes through the old pipe and it can cure to the old pipe. And then you can do it without, it's called the no-dig way, so you just dig one hole outside and you can blow that liner up underneath it. We do that too, we mostly kind of keep that towards commercial buildings
Okay.
and stuff. There are a lot of people that still do it with residential and stuff. I don't particularly like it because you're relying on that homeowner to remember certain things. Being the fact that that is a fiberglass liner, you stick those hard metal cables back through there, you can crack those liners.
Oh, that's a good point.
Does it happen the first time or does it happen 600 times? I don't know, I wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to tell you. And there's a lot of little hiccups that can happen with those liners. And you're basically refurbishing an old pipe.
Sure.
Come on, we've all broken a phone at some point. They've sent you a new phone and it has a quirk. It's not a new phone, it's been refurbished.
Yeah.
So it's the same type of concept. Your skill's gonna have the same imperfections. The only difference is that those imperfections are not leaking into the soil. It's just like a big Band-Aid they stuck inside the pipe.
Okay. Now, say I'm a homeowner right now, and you've scared the crap out of me because I already own my house. It was built prior to 1970, and I did not work with Myriad, and I didn't have a sewer inspection before I bought it. What do those people do? Do they just let it ride and hope for the best, or would you recommend them having a plumber come out and inspect?
Always have it inspected. Like, the best way to put it is that a good drain doesn't back up. There's always a reason for it. Did the homeowner abuse that line by sticking bacon grease down there? Did baby wipes or something along those lines get flushed down there? That's another big thing is that people talk about. It's like, oh, well, the thing says it's flushable. People's diamond rings are flushable, but doesn't mean they're supposed to go down there. Yeah, so if you have any type of backups or anything else like that, you should always look at the idea that you want to take a look at it. The biggest thing people have is fear. So it's like, they don't want to know. Like, I had a drain backup, but it's not a big deal. I don't want to know. Because once they do know, you being a real estate agent, what do they have to do?
Then they have to disclose it.
No one wants to disclose anything because
Yeah.
they don't want to be held by it.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing. But if you're planning on staying in that home, it's your life or it's your next 10 years, you're getting kids to go to college through it, whatever the case may be, the worst thing you want to do is, because most time when things fail, it's during Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Right.
And the last thing you want is a plumber in there jackhammering your floors in the middle of your kitchen while you're
Yeah.
trying to make Thanksgiving dinner. So if you've had any types of signs, and that's the biggest thing, the sign is out of backup. Doesn't matter if it's a kitchen, doesn't matter if it's a laundry, doesn't matter if it's a toilet, doesn't matter if it's a shower. It backed up for a reason. Let's try to find out what that reason was. Now, if you blatantly just took a pile of potatoes and shoved them down your garbage disposal and then it backed up, well, that's kind of going to give you a little bit of reason of why. But these older homes and stuff like that, people just don't know. So you just get a lot of that rigid type of pipe that things catch on.
Okay. So then that brings up a good question. What are maintenance things that people can do for their sewer lines, and what should we not be putting down the drain? I guess I've never really thought of, I figure if it's biodegradable, it can go in the garbage disposal. I don't know.
Well, like it's like kind of like I said with the baby wipes and the rings and stuff like that. Anything you can put anywhere down there, it's going to go somewhere. But can the sewer system handle it? These older homes, you got to realize it started off with either a 2-inch pipe or a 3-inch pipe, 4-inch pipe, whatever they had in there. Well, over the time of the years, as it starts to kind of close itself in because it's getting smaller and smaller because it's starting to lose its integrity, you start getting that smaller hole. So as you're trying to shove broccoli from last night or whatever down there, and you're shoving all that stuff and starting to spin it through, well, so that pipe when it was brand new could have handled it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now your pipe's maybe 1.25 inches round instead of 2 inch round. It can't handle it as much. So if you definitely live in those older homes in the 60s, 50s, stuff like that, you really want to throw a lot of your scraps in the trash.
Okay.
Try to keep it to a bare minimum because once it happens, it happens.
Note to self.
You just don't really want to shove all that stuff. And even newer homes, you still want to shove that stuff. Everybody just thinks it's like, well, that's what it's there for. It's supposed to eat that stuff up. I'm a plumber. I don't even have a garbage disposal in my house. My house was built in 78. Like, it just doesn't.
Wow.
I just don't like them, don't want them. It just defeats the purpose. Just gives you a reason to shove everything down there that you could possibly shove down.
Sure.
When you don't really need to. They're just meant to get the very basic small scraps. Everybody's like, well, I ate half my dinner, but I didn't want to eat it all, so I just shove them all in there and see what happens. Doesn't work it. And then most of the time, if you don't use it that often, the blades start to rust out and everything else. So then all of a sudden, when you're ready to use it, it's like,
or it seizes up.
Yep, it doesn't want to work anymore, so you haven't been using it.
What are some maintenance things people can do to, or do you even really need to do maintenance to sewer lines?
There are, like, depending on the year and what you have going on, there are certain things that you want to kind of take a look at. Like, if you're in a newer home and every 5 or 6 years, you probably want to do either some kind of cabling for preventative maintenance or some kind of jetting to help clean out the grease that starts to build up. Older homes, you just kind of want to stick some type of, like, we sell a thing that's called Vital Choice. It's basically a good enzyme that eats bad enzymes.
Okay,
So
I've
it's,
seen that.
Yep, it's EPA approved, it's everything else. So if you drink it, it's not going to kill you. It'll clean you out, but it won't kill you. So it is EPA approved, it's green, it's good for the environment, it's not going to do anything. But what it does is basically helps eat the bad grease. And as it eats that bad grease or stuff that's in there, it multiplies. And starts eating and eating and eating. So it helps kind of clean those drains out the way that they're kind of going.
How do you put that stuff down? Do you just pour it down the
Just
drain?
pour it out. Like the ones that we have actually have bottles that actually already have self-leveling ounces in it, so you can pretty much just tell you exactly how much you need to put on it by the directions. A lot of people seem to think that Drano and Liquid Plumber and all that other stuff, definitely read it before you use it. Most of those are an acid base. Acid obviously eats things, so if you think, oh, it's eating the clog, well, it's eating your pipe too. So it's eating whatever's in the area. So you definitely want to read before what you put down in there. For garbage disposals and stuff, maintenance-wise, ice is really good to shove down there every so often to help sharpen the blades, keep them going.
I've heard eggshells, is that
no,
true?
No, don't do eggshells.
No.
There's a reason for eggshells. It does help sharpen the blades, but the problem with the eggshells is that it's sticky. So once it gets in the drain, it sticks to the sidewalls of the drain. And now you have a backup because the eggshells aren't going anywhere. So I keep it to ice, sharpen up the blades. I'll cut up lemons and oranges and stuff like that because sometimes those garbage disposals, they do give you an odor.
Yeah.
Because it's all the food and junk going in there. Chop up some small lemons, grind those up, and you'll get kind of a citrusy smell to kind of help that out.
Great. So is there any additional information that you would have for homeowners, people thinking about buying, anything that we didn't touch on here today?
No, just definitely do your due diligences and make sure you do your research on anything that you're doing and what you're looking for. If you know that home's older, just don't take the word of the seller. They're selling it for a reason.
Sure.
So definitely just do your due diligence and camera something, because the last thing you want is marry something you don't want.
What that brings up a good question. What does a sewer inspection typically cost someone to do?
Normally, depending on if it's just one drain, multiple drains, whatever the customer's kind of looking for, they start at about $100 and it goes up to about $350 depending on how many drains and what you're looking for and stuff like that.
Definitely worth it to avoid spending $7,000 to $10,000.
That's how I look at it, especially when you're buying. It is the number one investment. That's what the biggest thing is. It's your number one investment, no matter how you look at it. So when you walk into that investment, you're buying that house, your whatever building or whatever it is, the last thing you want to do is that you want to enjoy it. You just moved in, you want to play, you want to hang out, you want to spend time with the family. The last thing you want is, hey, Donny, what's going on? Can you jackhammer my floors, please? Because I didn't do what you told me to do.
Yeah.
So no one really wants to do that. Let's keep it to where you get to spend that quality time with the family instead of with the plumber.
Right. And you can spend your $7,000 to $10,000 on cool stuff rather than things you don't actually see.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, if our audience has any questions or wants to reach out to you, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, they just call the shop over at Mr. Reuter at 480-350-9941 and ask for Donny.
Great. We'll make sure to put all this stuff down in the comment section. Great.
Perfect.
Well, thanks a lot. Appreciate your time.
Not a problem. Thank you.
That's the Myriad Show.
That's it.
That's it. That's a wrap.
If you want to buy the meat can, you don't have to.